Good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. It is I, Mike Martins, bringing you a very important announcement. It's kind of unfathomable or unpredictable, even with the signs and everything that we see, how bad affordability issue has become. We could have never fathomed it would have been this bad. We could have never imagined that it would get as bad as it's been getting. I've been receiving emails from 8 to 30 people on average per week, and the amount of overly educated people, and not only that, hardworking people, have hit severe affordability issues when it comes to basic necessities, when it comes to living a life that we never, like things that we took for granted, like things that we had, like just popping over to the corner store to pick up some mayonnaise because you're out and stuff. And some of those little things that we used to do, or people were used to doing 5, 10, 15 years ago, they're starting to see things get really tough financially, stress wise. And the amount of emails I get with people overworking themselves and not gaining any headroom, the amount of people that write to me to tell me that they just they're just and it's not just, oh, Mike, people took on too much home loans, there's too much student debt. No, it's not even that. It's even people that have come out of college. Why is this flashing? People that have come out of college that have a tough time. It's with no student loan debt are finding it hard. People that went with what do you call when you get one of those things? Um, when the school gets paid for you, right? I never thought of that because I was never gonna get one of those. But usually a scholarship or something, or something gets paid for you, and even people that went through those programs, scholarship program, and school was paid for, even 95% of the school was paid for, are finding it really hard to make the basic necessities, basic ends meet, the basic day in day out living. And what's really kind of scaring me, kind of putting me into this feeling of awkwardness, is that there's just too many unseen parts of us, right? There's too much unseen parts of our day to day, unseen parts of our stress, unseen parts of our just our basic day to day lives that are not so basic at times. There's just so much reality that we basically don't know about. There's just so much reality out there that we'll never get to know or understand or incorporate into our lives. And sorry, I just have my hands closed here. I I just think that a lot of us are dying spiritually or losing our spirituality. And most importantly, I think a lot of us are losing the basic love for each other. The basic love. The basic... It's so much easier to love each other than to hate, you know? And let me get to what I'm trying to get at here. I just don't think that anybody could fathom or even have an inkling of in their imagination 30 years ago how things would be 30 years into the future, into 2019, last quarter into 2020. I think a lot of people 30 years ago could never ever imagine the turbulation that a lot of people have been going through in 2020. To think that we would win these wars, or win the wars that were basically, we were told that were designed, that if we lost these wars, it would change the fate. Our human fate was in the hands of being destroyed. But I think it has been destroyed already. I think it's starting to boil down to being a daily battle with life, you know? And one thing that's really crushing me is the amount of homelessness is severe. It's gotten to a point where we're forgetting that that's us. Everybody has a son. Every homeless person has a mother and father. People in their entire lives. If you could maybe take the time to sit back and actually try and break down every year of your life and what you did and where you went. And you start to see the experiences you have in life. You'll start to kind of reenact parts of your life kind of in your mind, thinking, wow, I can't believe we went to go see that play. Wow, I can't believe we went to Manhattan on a weekend like that. Wow, I can't believe we flew to Portugal for like a week and just spontaneously and just wow. Wow, I can't believe we went surfing in Australia and saw the coral reefs. And once you start breaking down the good times that you had, never in the back of your mind during those good times that you had would you ever fathom that 5 or 10 years or whenever your memory is down the road, you're going to have a really tough time buying groceries. Or you would think that they would have cured cancer by then, right? You would think they would have had... life would have been so much easier. But in this sense of the reality, I think life is deteriorating for a lot of people. A lot of people giving up on their dreams and their direction. And I want to tell you not to. I want to tell you, keep your dreams alive. Keep that fire burning in you. Because the more you love yourself, the more you love others. And I want to tell you guys something. And I thought that I should let you know this in case you forgot. That fear does not keep you safe. Love keeps you safe. And loving, I think, is the key, the secret, the answer to why, the answer to life. is love. And so I was reading this article today, and it was discussing how Somalia, Somalia, it's a French word, and what that is, Somalisis. I think it's Latin for Somalisis. Okay, I'm not gonna go into Latin right now, but I think what it means is someone who's like a connoisseur of wine, someone that basically serves people specific wines from specific dates. Now, how this sommelier fell victim to homelessness crisis in California. United States' wealthiest and most populous state has the most homeless. So you would give and take. You would probably say, well, it has more crime because there's more people. Yeah, it's got more theft because there's more wealth, right? Opus 1, Chateau Lynch badges or Pertos. The crimson ribbons of fine wine trickled delicately into his customers' bulbous crystal glass. Mark Stevens had a knack for recommending the right bottle for expertly craving the Chateaubriand steaks and pheasant, and for remembering the dietary quirks of its clientele, including many of California's bold-faced names. He waited on George Shultz, a former Secretary of State, Joe Montana, the champion quarterback, Steve Jobs, the Apple founder. Mr. Hollis looked back on the decades as a sommelier and tuxedo-clad server from inside the Coleman tent in Oakland homeless encampment, where the rats, he says, are as big as footballs. So let me see if I can get a picture of this guy here. So it's a guy sitting in a tent. Yeah, is that it here? No. And basically, he seen the best of the best, the worst of the worst, the best of the worst, the worst of the best in his line of work. And it goes on to say here, let me get back to where I was here. He looks back at decades. So that's what I was asking you guys, to look back. And a tuxedo-clad server from inside a Coleman tent in Oakland, homeless encampment, where the rats, he says, are as big as footballs. He joined the ranks of unsheltered 5 years ago, another life upended among a diverse population that is so hard to categorize. Coming hand in hand with the state's worsening housing shortage, the number of homeless people has swelled in the Bay Area, rising 47% in Oakland alone over the past 2 years for more than 4,000. California, the country's wealthiest and most populous state, also has the most homeless. So you're seeing the divide between the ultra rich and the super poor. Middle class is nowhere on the radar anymore. They're working poor. They're in a position right now where they're going to have to make changes. Either do they take their medication they need for their diabetes, or do they buy food, or do they skip a rent, try to make up rent? That's how bad it's getting, right? An unremitting crisis that has confounded the state's political leaders for decades and exposed one of the most extreme manifestations of economic inequality gripping the country. Tent encampments, as known as tent cities, guys, Oakland city officials count 90 of them are now as much part of the landscape as the bars, restaurants that cater to the city's rising affluence. Many Americans are one medical emergency or one layoff or one family disaster away from bankruptcy or losing the roofs over their heads. For Mr. Hollis, the journey from wine steward at some of the finest restaurants in San Francisco Bay Area to sleeping in a tent on a strip of dirt next to the freeway was a gradual unraveling. Never would this man ever fathom or even question this kind of living, serving wine to Joe Montana, laughing it up with the Joneses. Never would he have ever would wonder something like this. Mr. Hollis, the journeyman from wine steward at one of the finest restaurants in San Francisco Bay Area to sleeping in a tent in a strip dirt next to the freeway, was a gradual unraveling. He struggles with drugs, his failed marriages, his larceny when he needed money. They all contributed to his present straits. I tasted some incredible wines, he said, from a wicker chair in his tent that he calls his throne. You can swirl and sip, and 5 minutes later you were still getting layers. After many restaurant jobs through the 1980s and 90s, Mr. Hollis says his undoing came with an addiction to crack cocaine. He stole to fuel his habit and spent a total of 8 years in prison. I was the type of guy who would break into your car and steal change out of your ashtray, he said. But it was not until several years after his last release from jail in 2010 that the addiction took over again, and no one from his fractured family was there to catch him. He moved from homeless encampment to the next until arriving earlier this year at his current spot at 880 Freeway and train tracks. Over the relentless din of 8 lanes of traffic and the Amtrak and customer trains rolling past his encampment in East Oakland, he evokes Opus, the Napa Valley, Carburate Blend, and Chateau du Cru Bien Calu, and left Bank Bordeaux. He smiles at the memory of sampling a 1974 Mondavi Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. But Piant Noir, his favorite grapes, where it's good on the point, it's an extraordinary experience, he says. Shirtless and in shorts on an unusually hot day last week. So, you're seeing people fall into this. So, let's move on, because I got a bit here I want to show you guys. So, Democrats want to bring California's homeless problem to your door. So, as for Joe Biden, except for him to stick by the Obama administration's policy that living on the street is a civil right, I kind of wanted to bring that part up. Never mind the harm street dealers inflict on the public health, safety, and suffering they endure themselves. In downtown Los Angeles business district, many of the country's 60,000 homeless live in tents and parked cars. Defectating in blankets left on the street corners for public sanitation workers to empty out needles, litter the sidewalks, rats scamper by. Murders are up 13% and rapes are up 61% in 1 year in these homeless camps. So this is what I'm thinking. They're hoping that the people that, you have a right to live on the street. It's your God-given right. You're free. And then they fall into the drug trap, the cocaine, the synthetic marijuana, the opioids, all that garbage. And then once that happens, it's very hard to turn back from that. But that's what I'm thinking they want to happen. This is like me getting real here. I'm getting real here, guys. I believe they want that to happen. Because then they don't have to house people who believe that it's their God-given right to live on the street. So you don't have to be housed. You're free and be happy, but President Trump says the people of Los Angeles are fed up. The Washington Post bashes Trump for daring to stigmatize the homeless. Leftist advocates say complaining neighbors need an immersion course to increase their empathy. They go on to say, sorry, Trump's right. What's needed is an abrupt change from the delusional policies exacerbating homelessness. Last week, Trump's Council of Economic Advisors identified the biggest culprit: rent control laws that discourage the real estate industry from building or refurbishing affordable spaces. Get rid of the regulations and homelessness would fall 40% in Los Angeles and 54% in San Francisco. Listen up, New York. The president's report also estimates that abolishing rent regulations here would slash homelessness by 23%. Unlike California, New York, shelter is a legal right, guaranteed by the courts. The city provides temporary housing for nearly all homeless in shelters, apartments, and even holiday inns. The cost of the taxpayer is whopping $2.14 billion a year. So tenants work together with landlords to take in homeless people under the Californian law. So they're going to start working with tenants to take in people that are in danger of being homeless, to work with tenants so they could increase the rent slightly to accommodate somebody who is at risk of being homeless. That's nice. But then there was another ad here I wanted to read for you guys. There was another ad I wanted to read for you guys here. Let me go back to this one here. I think takes the bullet right here. This is the one that I saw this today, and I just. So San Francisco apparently found a problem for this homelessness. They're installing anti-homeless boulders along sidewalks. So they're doing this now. They're starting to just put gigantic boulders. And what happens? So it increases more displacement. So what other streets get, I guess, occupied? Or where does it move to? Because all they're doing is moving the problem around. They're not solving the problem. Now, I'm going to tell you guys where the problem is originally stemming from. The affordability issues that we're having right now is all stemming from foreign investing. Money coming in from wealthy countries. I mean, China is the biggest culprit. Some from Russia, some from Saudi Arabia, some from some from Dubai, but a majority of it is from China. Canada was basically propping or using laundered money to help prop their GDP. Canada has roughly $200 billion in laundered real estate. Foreign money basically was injected into an economy of 20 or 30 million people. And our economic system, I don't think, could handle It and it goes to show the increase in prices of housing, the increase in price of food, the increase of everything under the sun has doubled, quadrupled. Housing went up 16, 17, 24 times in value. In some cases that I've seen. 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom bungalow in Vancouver, 2,000 square feet, $5.5 million. Was originally $6 million, but you could say 500,000. It's phenomenal. It is absolutely unfathomable. But what happened, guys? So I was looking at this. This is from Market Watch. This is a very important article from May of 2019. It talks about the Chinese purchase more U.S. Residential real estate than buyers from any other foreign country. But Trump's trade war might change that. So what's happening is you're getting an influx of wealth of people looking to park their money. The whole west coast of the United States of America is completely bought out by foreign money. When it comes from all the way from Blaine, Washington, at the border of Canada and the United States, to Tijuana/San Diego border, is completely bought out. Not 100%. I'm saying it's bought out and out of reach for the American proper. And that's why you're getting all this tug of war of increasing minimum wage so we could afford to live. No. When you're when you're bought out foreignly, it creates a lot of damage, right? Back in the day, now I'm not saying that it's all money laundering. No. It's not. It's people wanting to get their wealth out of a country that has a social credit score. They want to take their wealth out of a country where their president confirmed or called himself Emperor of China now. It's people that basically, a lot of hardworking people too, that made the right moves in life, that don't want to live under the communist yoke, right? Now, there's a lot of bad apples too. They don't fall too far from the tree, and they basically come in and couldn't care less about the country, the infrastructure, or how damaging it's going to be for the people living there. Right? We sold out our jobs overseas, and now they're coming back to buy us out in full force. So this is the concerns in 2014. So this started way back in, even before 2014. It started in the San Francisco region, and it spread south to San Diego, and then it went north to Northern California. And then it wasn't until 2017 when Vancouver put the foreign buyers tax on to stop foreigners from basically buying out the rest of the city. What they did was a lot of the foreign investors moved to Seattle, to King County, and that crippled Washington, and Oregon fell right after. So affordability levels hit epic proportions for everybody, and every American proper was pretty much out of reach. And the ones that felt that they had it under control were fooling themselves, because a lot of them rode that my house will keep going up in value. In 2014, China supplanted Canada as the source of the largest share of foreign buyers of U.S. residential real estate, according to data from the National Association of Retailers. In 2018 dollars, Chinese buyers accounted for roughly 25% of total foreign investments in the U.S. residential real estate. Canada was second at 9%. So I don't believe these numbers, because pretty much 1 in 3 homes in Vancouver is empty. And then 1 in 6 homes in Burnaby is empty. 1 in 7 homes in Surrey is empty. 1 in 10 homes in Chilliwack are empty, right? Even in my town, 1 in 25 homes here are empty in my small town of 10, 7, 8, 9,000 people. Right? Of the 284,000 properties sold to foreigners last year, some 40,400 or 15% were bought by Chinese nationals. 5 years early, Chinese nationals had purchased 23,075 homes, representing just 12% of properties sold to foreign buyers. Now, here's the problem with most of this, is they leave these homes empty. They don't want to rent them out. They don't want to deal with tenants, and they don't want to deal. And this is what's crippling Western United States. It's crippling Sydney. It was crippling Sydney for the longest time. Now everyone's taken off. And foreigners are retreating from there now. Foreign investing is retreating. Foreign investing retreated from New Zealand because they banned foreign buyers in New Zealand. So even China's growing share in recent years represents a small percentage of overall investments of U.S. residential real estate. As of 2018, foreign buyers aggregate accounted for just 3% of home sales. The association added, that figure has been rising, but experienced a modest decline between 2017 and 2018. The figures of 2019 expected to be similar to 2018 levels. The Chinese government could place stricter capital controls about taking money out of the country, out of China and buying in America. So, what did China do? They put those stricter capitals. And what did you see after May of when this article was written? Everything dry up. Everything dry up. And it got bad. But we still haven't fixed our homeless problem, have we? Now, Dr. Housing Bubble says, Chinese buyers pulled back dramatically in buying U.S. real estate. Foreign purchases dropped by 36%, and the results will be magnified in prime areas of California. So what does this mean? The housing is going to become cheaper? We're going to see a correction in the market? No. It means it's going to remain stagnant for a long time. Apparently, there is a limit to how many houses Chinese investors can purchase in the U.S. Foreign real estate purchases, largely driven by Chinese investors, plunged 36% as international controls in China made it harder to move money out of the country, and trade war talks having an impact in this sector. While some might say this is small relative to the overall U.S. real estate market, you need to realize that that money from China was hyper-focused on certain areas. I was just going to say that. Specific pockets, specific areas, right? Now, I'm going to go back to this now. So, you've seen a mass exodus of Sydney, Australia, where people moved to Hobart and other parts of Australia, to the capital, Canberra, there. They moved there. You saw a mass exodus of people leaving Auckland, and Welland and other parts of New Zealand to more affordable areas to the southern islands. You see a lot of people leaving London proper, a lot of British proper, and millennials moving to Middle England because they're just out of reach. And then you see a lot of people leaving Ireland, Dublin, moving to the southwest of Ireland. And you see it happen in Edinburgh, in Scotland, where people left Edinburgh and started moving anywhere but the major cities in the country and moving to the country, basically. And you saw it in Vancouver, where people such as myself, I refused to be displaced, and I wanted to raise a family, and I had a dream, and I had to leave the city to do it. And I did. With the right moves in mind, I did it. And I'll continue doing it. Why? Because I love myself. I love you guys. I love everybody around me. And I've realized many years ago that fear does not keep you safe. Love does. And I just want you guys to understand how important life is. How big of a gift it is that we all have life. And I just don't want you guys to realize this before it's too late. When it's too late, you start realizing it. I just don't want people's dreams to be crushed. I don't want people to think it's over. That you know, it's the intermigration within our countries, right? Not foreign migration, but intermigrations, the movement of people within different states of America, within different, being crippled, not by a natural disaster, not by a famine, food shortage of some sorts, not by locusts, not by biblical plagues, but affordability. Gripped by affordability levels, and it's causing people to lose their fire. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to stay on target. I want you to stay with your eye on the prize. I want you to love yourself. Because once you do, you could love others. And share with others that unseen part of your lives. There's so much unseen in our lives that we could share with people, you know? So it's time to go. Over half of California voters have considered leaving the state. So this is from today. Why in the world anyone still want to live in California? So there's the Wagons West that we keep talking about on the channel. Wagons West, back in the land of milk and honey time, when they started introducing aqueducts and water into California, it was pretty much a desert till water started coming in. And now they're headed eastward ho, now leaving California, the land of taxation and regulation. Welcome to California. Illegals crossing, caution. Residents and businesses fleeing. The great middle class exodus. And a lot of these people don't understand it's the middle class that drives these politicians overspending, these politicians private jet rides and $2,000 steak dinners. These politicians don't get it. That without the middle class and the working poor and people that have dreams and a direction in life are the ones that actually create the prosperity that grow the state of California or the city of Sydney or the city of Vancouver. We've seen an epidemic of doctors leaving Canada because they just can't afford to live here. You know, I've received emails from radiologists. What was that? What's that guy? That guy that messaged me worked in anesthesia, whatever, the anesthesian guy. Been doing it for 16 years, and he moved to Homestead, Florida, right, from Canada. And that nurse I spoke to that moved to Ocala, Florida, right? And that other doctor that used to work at St. Paul's, you know, he moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, right? It's a very interesting movement, a very interesting set of affairs that are happening, ushering in different points of views and different. And on a pro side of it, people are just moving to where the air is free. On a negative side, it's a bunch of boulevards of broken dreams. I think that's a song by Green Day? Offspring? Green Day. Boulevard of Broken Dreams, yeah. I want to tell you guys that not to give up. We've been displaced to a point in life, or at a point in our lives, where, or relocated. I've relocated. I lived in Vancouver. I'm not paying $2.2 million for a teardown. So I found a place where I could lay some roots, raise a family, a place that we could, as a family, call home. And a lot of people don't have that anymore. A lot of people don't have the privilege of stating that they have a place they could call home. And then what do? Instead of spending money on war, instead of throwing money away at wars, imagine what the world would be like if we actually invested that much into our not our lifestyles, but our facilities that could facilitate us and to be better human beings, whether it's through medicine, whether it's through education, whether it's through retraining for other positions and other skilled trade work, whether it's putting it into sciences and actual proper pharmaceutical companies that would actually look for cures, as opposed to, imagine, right? Or the money we're throwing away towards this whatever Green New Deal. I think it's a bad deal. I think we could regenerate the middle class by not giving money away, or not giving people more money, but giving people more opportunity, giving people giving people more decisions instead of being ordered or being told what is expected, right? More freedom in the workplace, more freedom of expression. People now are unhinged at work because they can't speak up, and if they do, they'll be homeless. Back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, you spoke up, you'd say, here's my stuff, here's my box, hasta la vista, I'm going to go somewhere else and make more money. Good luck. I know that's a bad attitude, but people understood each other more because people weren't living in fear. And remember, guys, fear does not keep you safe. Love keeps you safe. We've experienced in the last 10, 15, okay, let's say 13 years, an incredible existential changes, and little to none have been changes to make our lives easier. And I know. Anyways, I don't want to talk anymore. I've been talking too much. What time? Holy crap, this is long. We're going to see a lot of movements in countries, and it's going to get worse. If you thought the mass exodus of California is a big deal, it's going to get worse in other cities. I think it's going to start hitting the secondary cities and the tri-cities outside of the... So the second biggest cities now are starting to look at defaults too, and people moving out to the third city out and the fourth city, and then before you know it, you're completely 3 to 5 hours away from the major cities. And when does it end? How does it get... Because right now, where I'm living, when I moved in, I bought my house for $260. Now my house is worth like $400,000. I don't want that, because it's going to keep my children out, right? Especially if wages haven't moved in 40 years. What makes you think they're going to move any further in the next 40 years, right? So I don't want that, because it's not something I could take to the next life. I just want what everybody else strives for in life, and it's comfort. Are you comfortable? Do you sleep well at night? And that's what everybody wants to achieve, to have in their lifetimes, is comfort. They don't have to be billionaires or millionaires to be comfortable. People just want that sense of accomplishment. People want to actually set out to do the things they do, as opposed to just talking about them, you know? Where does it go from here? The amount of emails I get, I don't know. But what I do know is you need to believe in yourself. You need to love yourself. Stop fearing, because that's what they want. I want you to remember that the value of life is so important. And don't realize it when it's too late. Let me know what you guys think. Where will we go from here? What happens now? The amount of emails I get about people can't afford to buy dinner, or are eating once a day, and not because they're fasting, it's because they can't afford to eat more than once a day. And these are regular wage earners. These are not minimum wage. Average wage earners are really feeling the pinch. Let me know. I look forward to reading your comments. Thanks for watching.